Thank you very much, David. And now I'd like to welcome from Endangered Heritage, Conservator Victoria Pearce.
Thanks, David. I won't be talking too much about preservation of conservation skills per se, but I am kind of pleased that we take on 8 interns a year. I'll just breeze through this to save us a bit of time. We have a team of conservators out at Fyshwick and Gladstone Street. We cover all forms of conservation: paintings, textiles, books, paper, metals, glass, ceramic, wood, stone, you name it, we'll do it. So what are heritage skills? I think we've probably covered that off, but skills that require a traditional mode of transfer. They require the sharing of the primary experience of the task. They require the oral transfer of knowledge. Reading a book, albeit important, isn't the end of the story. Heritage skills are skills which have inherently got adaptive learning. The master teaches the student to create, not to copy. Engaging youth with the old, or the master, to create an evolution of social capital, not just a product. It's the evolution of social capital where all Australians win. Teachers learn from teaching. You don't actually really know what you know until you can explain it to someone else. So the whole idea of passing something forward and having apprenticeships also strengthens the teacher. They are forced to hone their skill to justify their teaching. And that's what pulls professions forward. Some bonus points for heritage skills is that they actually rely heavily on renewable resources and materials, often recyclable, and the artefact is worthy of repair. So we've had a few people say there's less waste. And the products from heritage skills are actually under demand globally, and that's an idea I want to expand on. I started organising this event 2 years ago, and I cannot tell you how many people have said, well, what's the point? They're all dying out. Do we really need them anymore? Like, really? You know, they're just old-fashioned. And what I want to kind of point out here is that blacksmiths aren't making armour for knights anymore. Every generation innovates those skills to fit and create the products that are needed for that generation. They're not static. They actually are really dynamic. And when we have youth engaging with heritage skills and heritage training, we are going to have innovation. Just check out the foxes in the taxidermy display. Right? You get really funky, creative, wonderful, new products coming from the use of heritage skills. Made to order. Not everything can be or should be mass-produced. In fact, I'd argue that in our day, these days, where we're all actually treated by our government as an economic unit, it's even more important to have the soul-nourishing experience of things that are made and connected with other people, made from their sweat of their brow, made with their creative input, because it's the soul food that, again, creates social capital. It's what binds us as a community and as a people. It's what binds us as a nation. And there are certain skills that are so instrumental to Australia and our culture and our national gross capital gain, like Coopers, they're not at our event. Because there's one family training Coopers in Tanunda in South Australia, and they laughed. They said, we can't spare anyone. We're a winemaking country. We've got now gin and whiskey trades kicking off. These guys can't keep up with demand. Coopers are earning more than top firm solicitors. They can name their price. We're churning out more than 700 lawyers a year who are mostly unemployed. My daughter's a graduate lawyer. She was one of 3 people in her graduating year to get work. The rest of them 5 years on are all still unemployed. So if you want a good job for your kids with good income and stability, I recommend Cooper. Heritage plasterer. Same thing, yeah. The other one that I want to just, when I started arranging this event, blew my mind. Scientific glassblowers. If you want to do original research in a university, you want to do original experimentation, chances are the glasswork is not going to come off the shelf from China. You are going to have to commission someone to actually blow the glass with the accuracy for scientific reproducibility for publication, customised for your experiment. We have 3 people in Australia who can do this. They're servicing all of the universities in Australia, and when they go and die out, what happens to our science, people? What happened to the smart country? Wow. And are we going to stop playing musical instruments, really, like luthiers? Cobblers for medicinal shoes. Injuries, ski injuries, critical ski injury. Legs 2 inches shorter than the other. Might need a cobbler. I also have a really firm belief that there are an awful lot of industries that can be repurposed and married to new industries. So heritage skills can be brought into completely new industries. It is insane to me, with global warming and deforestation, that we are putting people in wooden boxes to bury them or to cremate them. We're just setting good timber on fire. What's that about? We could be employing basket weavers to make baskets for the 30,000 funerals that happen every year or whatever. You know, and basketry is a renewable resource because it's the twigs and branches off of plants that are used to make them. And I really think that with a growing medical prosthetic industry in Australia, we also should get the cobblers involved because they do actually really understand about comfort. So I'd like to see these skills being redefined and married to completely new industries to actually be completely innovative and creative. And this is a great example we can learn from the Japanese. Traditional Japanese sword makers go through their complete traditional training, carving stone, coral, filigree, metal, inlay, you name it, they do it all. Exactly the way it's been for centuries. And then they're making record cartridges for record turntables. These are the little needles. You see the diamond needle all put in there? That's blue agate. That's that one there's got gold. There's stone, wood. You can see. Absolutely stunning. These cartridges go for what, 15,000 each? Around? People are buying them. They're exquisite. You can't tell me that there's no, product or economy using these skills in a sideways manner. And obviously, sword makers are pretty good at knives as well. So I just want to have a little bit of a talk about what happens in global economies, and particularly because of globalisation. In a global economy, a whole bunch of things that happen that means we are using skills and services offshore. So all governments, and our government's gone crazy with STEM this, STEM that, science, technology, engineering and maths. Got to teach more STEM. Every other country is also teaching STEM. We get that, right? We're now having a race to the bottom. In the Philippines, they have contracts with overseas countries for exporting over 200,000 workers as OFWs, overseas foreign workers, to any country to fill labour gaps. Those labour gaps now are increasingly in the IT sector. They're doing website design. They're doing call centres. They're working for Apple on their Apple service line. Indonesia's doing the same. China's doing the same. India's doing the same. Seriously? So Australia and New Zealand are the only countries that have actually reached first world status from agribusiness. Only countries in the world that have reached first world status from agribusiness. And yet, we don't do an awful lot of value adding with those products. We have no leather industry anymore. All skins are sent offshore, they're processed elsewhere, and we buy our leather back. China and India have the fastest and biggest growing middle class, and manufacturing products is becoming more expensive. In 2011, China spent, for the first time, China spent more on its internal security than it did on its military. We don't have to be afraid of China. The Chinese dragon is fighting internally to keep social control because the spread and speed of the middle class, the demands for income growth, the demand for standard of living is reached such fever pitch, they are not flooding the markets with cheap goods anymore. I spoke to one blacksmith when arranging this event who said, the problem with our trade is that people want a wrought iron fence or gate, and they come to me, it's going to cost them $15,000, and they say, I'll just get one that's been imported from China. That's actually going to dry up. It's not going to happen. In another 5 to 10 years, their economies are changing so rapidly that products from China are going to be the same cost as products that we could make here. And we all know if you go and buy a pack of screws from Bunnings, the Chinese cheese screws and hardware cost the same as the good stuff. That's going to keep going. That's going to keep happening. So it's not going to be cheaper to import these things. So global heritage skills are also in decline, as all of our speakers have said. While arranging this event, I received an email, God bless them, from the City Council of Johannesburg. We have got a problem with our heritage skills. We have these cast iron street lamps and we can't get anyone to fix them because we've lost those skills. Can you tell me how your event went? Can you actually help us to get our skills back? Like, of all of the things that we should be exporting, maybe training people and having heritage skills and being the people with the smarts and the problem solving, not the people running call centres, would be a really good way to go. So I've got this little idea, and this is where this all really began, that we need to do something here in Canberra, that we're perfectly situated. We have all of the national institutions, we have a heritage course in conservation, we're a really small community, 300,000 people, but not a lot of industry. Heritage could actually be our industry. We've got all of the equipment, we've got the university, School of Music, art school, and reasonable cost of living for students to actually come here, not like Sydney or Melbourne. So Canberra is actually a very good city to be actually piloting how we could actually reinvigorate our heritage skills. One of the reasons these apprenticeships have all failed is because TAFE and CIT have a remit to train people all equally to the same standard. And that's brilliant if you're wanting a national standard for electricians or plumbers. They all have to come out exactly the same, all able to walk in the footprints of the other one who went before them. Right? It's a safety issue. We have to have building codes. That's terrific. And training 700 electricians, absolutely what CIT should be funded to do to that national standard. Training 700 blacksmiths all to the same standard, making the same product for the same marketplace is insane. And of course it's not viable. Of course it's not the way things should be. We have gone beyond these skills being trade-based through CIT or TAFE. What we really need is for these skills to be actually taught through university, because in a university, students get to pick and choose their subjects. And the one thing I know for sure is if you are trained with a heritage skill profession, you're going to be self-employed. So their first year at university could be in business skills, marketing, bit of ethics, social media, communication. That's what all of these heritage skill professionals are going to need. When they've all got those skills and some business skills in their first year at university, they then go and get placed with a trade professional. Still covered, still paying HECS like every other university student, to bring down the cost to that professional who's passing on their training and skills. So they are embedded with a professional. They bring with them all of these business skills they've just picked up. So there's a really nice exchange, which is what heritage training is really about. The teacher learns, the student learns. And then even maybe, given that some of our traders had to pull out at the last minute because they're in their 80s and it's winter in Canberra, these guys might actually have the skills to be able to take over the businesses. Assessments could be done in the same way as they are for honours students, with an assessment panel reviewing that person's work at the end of their 3-year degree. They would have a qualification. We could have our heritage skills. No one needs to create new syllabuses. No one needs to create new TAFE, new tooling, new technology. We don't end up with 700 blacksmiths and no bookbinder. It means that every student can do those common units and have the option of a couple of electives. So if you want to be a luthier, you can do a unit at the music school. You can do a unit at woodwork at the art school. You want to be a blacksmith, you can do a unit in metallurgy. You can do a unit in engineering. You want to be a bookbinder, you can do some paper conservation or paper making or leather work. You can actually then niche, and instead of us ending up with 700 people like the TAFE structure created, which was fantastic for contemporary needs and skills, our heritage skills could be saved and we could actually get this degree happening in a year because we're not creating any new units. They're already there. So we really need people to start demanding that we do something about this because it doesn't have to be this way. And I'd like to have a bit of a pitch for our Indigenous people, especially because it is NAIDOT week. While I have every respect in the world for the incredible arts and craft sector of the Indigenous community, it trivialises their culture. They have professions. They had so many professions. You do not have the oldest culture on the planet continuously without them having trades and professions. Food, medicine, celestial navigation. The AFP is still using Indigenous trackers, but we're not doing anything to make sure that those skills are passed on for the next generation, for us all, in case our car breaks down. Like this, we need this. Vote making, the number of Indigenous skills is crazy that we can all benefit from. And I'm really quite passionate. I really hoped that we'd be able to get some more Indigenous community members at this event, but it's been really hard with no funding to actually travel them. And so hopefully next year we will. Indigenous people have been saying for the better part of my life, we're losing our elders. I hope that if there's one message that you take home tonight, is so are we. And if anyone wants to try and tell me that millinery or any of these other heritage trades doesn't have economic viability into the future, then they need to actually think about a Kubra. They make hats. One of the oldest fashion professions around. And they're one of our biggest and best branded exports. So again, I'd like to thank you very much for your participation in this event, the seminar. And if you haven't been down to see all of the amazing work at the Fitters Workshop, come tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you again next year. Hopefully next year we'll have different traders, and what we'd like to see this event become is an event of talent searching, where every year we get different traders who are there because they're looking for an apprentice. And from all around the country, we will get people coming because they are looking for a mentor. And so Canberra can be the hub of this. Thank you very much.